And hello, dance friends. Welcome to Coffee Talk. We are focused on dance education, dance teaching, a passion for the art of dance, and anything else that comes up. My name is Rhee. I'm your host. Today I may be your guest. We'll see in a second. I'd like to introduce you to Laura. Laura, welcome. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy Monday. So my name is Laura Giacomelli Huntowski. I'm the owner of Libra Dance Studio. We've been open for 12 years now. We're in our 12th season, and it's been a wild journey. Exciting and fun and crazy and high and lows. And I wouldn't want to do it any other way. I love dance. So this is amazing that I get to live my passion every day. Also the mom of Cole. He's 2. Keeps me on my releve toes in a different way. And my husband is Eric, and we've been married for almost 4 years.
Yes, yes, yes. You've done good, my friend.
Thank you.
And I was going to bring up Cole if you hadn't done that, because I feel like we've been together since Cole entered this world.
Really?
So, everybody, once again, welcome. We are brought to you by the International Dance Entrepreneurs Association, also known as IDEA. IDEA is a group of studio owners from pretty much all around the world. We learn together, we grow together, we cheer each other on, and we learn from business experts how to grow and also how to make the decision as to what it is that we really want and what we consider to be true success for each of us individually. Learn more about IDEA at ideadance.org. Okay, so I'm going to let you go, Miss Laura. I'm going to sit back and be the interviewee. I'm excited, but wait, before I turn it over, I want to go to comments and I want to hear from who is watching today. I'd love to hear where you're from. And what's your vibe? How you feeling? Okay, Miss Laura, this is
me. All right, let's rock and roll, Rhee. Okay, so first off, I want to thank you, Rhee, for having me interview you. I feel like I've known about you for so long, but I think in the past 4 years, I've really gotten to know you as a person and as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and someone who's like a leader in our industry. So I told my husband I was a little nervous to do this. And he's like, you talk to Rhee every Friday in Golden Lions. Don't be nervous. And I was like, yeah, you're right. We're just going to talk in a different way. People are going to listen. So I was like, yeah, it's true. So I came to find you 10 years ago, Rhee. I was at my studio. We were about to head into we're ending our second year, about to go into our third season. And my studio really grew that second year. And I said, I need to find something that's going to help me with this business. And I went to school for dance. I did not go to school for business. And I did a Google search and you came up and the Dance Life Retreat Center came up. And that was my first introduction to you and the world that you have created for us dance studio owners and dance teachers, and bringing like-minded people together in a positive atmosphere where, like you're saying with IDEA, that we can grow and share ideas. And it's just been amazing to be a part of it. So first off, thank you for that, because I truly believe that my studio, a lot of its core values and our beliefs have come from IDEA, and being a member of that and being a member of the Gold Alliance. So first off, thank you. So I am super excited to be here and talk to you about like your life and your journey. So I know many people know about the Gold School and your mom and now your brother running it, but I would like to go chapters back.
Okay.
Your mom. Tell us about her early dance experience and how it came about and this studio came about.
All right. So my mom was Sherry Gold. She was a studio owner. She had the studio that I was raised in for 30 years. It was in the basement of our home. But my mother's was born, this is her story. She was born in Arkansas, a little town in the northeast corner of Arkansas called Monette. There really wasn't much dance there. She was born in 1935.
Mhm.
The World War II was going on. She was about 7 years old. And her parents, my grandparents, made the decision to move to Michigan to work in the plants, which were making the weapons and tools needed for the war. I believe my grandmother was one of those Rosie Riveter
Mhm.
at the time. And that was where my mother found dance. I think had she stayed in Arkansas, that wouldn't have happened.
Interesting.
And as far as she tells it, from that age 7 on, it was the passion of her life. She knew it at a really young age as well.
Mm.
So then you said, how did it come to the studio? My mother went on the road. She was known as Sherry Michaels, the redheaded contortionist. And she
Wow.
was an acrobat. Um, Professionally, she was an acrobat. She worked on two, I'm going to call them cheers, but they were more like square bench things, would
Okay.
do back bends and pick up a handkerchief in her mouth. If it was, my mother could roll. Listen to this. I don't know how she did it. She could roll a glass of champagne on her body. So it would start off on her chest, her stomach area, and somehow she would move it and roll and come back over on the other side, and the champagne wouldn't spill. She also did back bends off of those chairs where she'd pick up the glass of champagne and drink it.
Wow.
I haven't thought about this in ages. And listen, the two stools that she did her act on still exist. They're at the studio,
Oh.
and they're still alive and well. Not everybody knows what the history of them are, but that is those were her stools. So she went on the road.
Rennie should put a little like plaque in front of them and have them like displayed at the studio. That's
He
so
does
incredible.
have them displayed. I don't know if there's really a plaque in front of them, but when you see them, or I do anyway, I go history,
Yeah,
history.
truly. Like, I mean, talk about a dance prop that like started it all. Like, that's incredible. Wow.
So what happened was she was on the road. She had got married at age 17. She had my older brother, Tony. That marriage didn't work out so well. My grandparents had moved back to Arkansas. My mother asked them to take care of my brother, Tony, and
Mm.
she went on the road and danced. She did that for about 7 years, landed in Boston because at the time, if you were an act, you would want to land in a city where you could move from entertainment place to entertainment place. And Boston was a good hub because it's center for New Hampshire, Rhode Island, close to New
Yes, New
York,
York,
Connecticut.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So she moved to Boston because of the consistency to work. And she met my father. My father was her agent, theatrical agent.
Now, this is the part that I find so interesting because I never knew about this, that you come from a family on both sides. Mom and dad were both entertainers. I only knew about your mom. I had no idea that your dad, and you have to tell the story about everything he did in the industry and not just the dance industry, but he was such an entertainer overall. I don't think many people know that.
Hey, listen, my father, the people don't know it because he's been gone so long, frankly.
Mm,
He was born in 1909.
mm,
He started performing at the age of like 15. So that's like, I'm going to say 1924, 1925. Went on the road as a tap dancer. It was the end of the vaudeville era. I used to think he was in vaudeville, but now I know my history, and he was the end of the
that's in
vaudeville
Mhm.
era. And the funny thing about my father is if you look in the scrapbook and you see, let's say, billings for their performances that were coming to that particular city, he'd be listed as the fast-paced tap dancer, or
Mm,
he'd be listed as the comic from Boston. I realized he did it all, right? Like he was a dancer. But if you were in show business at that time, you travel city to city, you'd land in a club, and you'd have to be open to doing what that club needed you to do.
mhm.
And so I look at it as though he was a versatile performer,
Yep.
um, loved show business. He used to say to me, I worked with the Three Stooges, or I worked with um, Louis Armstrong, and he'd just throw out these names. I'd be like,
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
it was an era of show business that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, don't you feel like Rhee, because in those days, I mean, I also feel I now when you educate your dancers, like I always say, like you should be taking tap, you should be taking jazz, you should be taking hip hop, you should be trying doing ballet plus modern. Like you want to be as versatile as possible. But in those days, versatile back then was different. You need to be able to talk on a mic, tap dance. Like it wasn't just styles of dance. It's like, can you be a quadruple threat, not even acting, singing, dancing. That was
You
almost
had
I
to
feel like
be
expected.
comfortable in your soul
Yeah,
to say, I can do that.
right.
Like, um, oh, I can't think of the name of the Broadway show. I can do that. What's the name of the chorus line? I
Yep,
can do that.
yep. Mhm.
And I'm sure that's exactly what he did, no matter where he went.
Hmm. Well, that's what he needed to do to book all those amazing opportunities he found for himself.
Yes, yes. And then he came home to Boston, opened the Al Gold Theatrical Agency. And I'm going to say that was probably late 40s, early 50s, is what I'm believing. And what was really cool about his place was by the time I was born in the 60s, there was still like it was a building filled with agents.
Hmm.
Agents who booked bands, agents who booked comics, agents who booked what they called exotic dancers. They were what they referred to as strippers, but they were exotic dancers. Um, my father booked pretty much everything. And all these guys would get together or they'd pick up the phone and call downstairs and they'd say, I need a comic for Saturday night. And the guy would say, I got so and so. And so all of these guys were all maneuvering show business in Boston. And I remember it distinctly. Like I remember a magician. His name was Sammy Lyman. He used to come to my father's office and pull a quarter out of my ear and little rabbits and
Wow.
yeah, it was a cool time. And I'll tell you one more thing about that, then I'll go to your next question. There was a woman across the hall from my father's office. Her name was Petty Dane. She ran something called Petty Dane Creations. She was a former exotic dancer. So she made costumes for everybody, but she also made costumes for the exotic dancers. It was really her specialty. When my brother and I were little, we go to work with my father on Saturdays, and she'd give us this buckram. Now, buckram, do you know what I mean when I say buckram? You can make
No.
a hat out of buckram. It's like heavy material, honeycomb material that's like
Okay.
a binding for something. We go over to her office. My brother and I would take them, bend them into cones, and we were making pasties. We didn't know what we were making. But she'd
Oh
keep
my
us
God.
busy for hours. We go out, they were these little cones. And then when I got a little older, I started looking around. I go, that's what they are. They're gorgeous. She made beautiful.
I'm not sure if you'd be allowed to do that with the child labor laws we have in place nowadays.
I'm not sure, but it sure didn't affect me. But it's a funny story. We get paid for that. My father would say, go over and see if Penny needs any help.
Oh my gosh, Rhee, that's wild. What a life. Okay, so this kind of leads me into my next question. What is your earliest memory, your dance memory growing up? Because you had such a unique upbringing. Your mom had her studio in your basement growing up. So that is, I mean, obviously Cole's only ever seen me with the dance studio, but it's not in our home. It's, 15, 20 minutes down the road from us. So first off, what is your earliest dance memory at the studio in your home? What was that like?
The other day when you and I were talking, it didn't. I told you that it was a little harder than the earliest dance memory, but one just came to my mind. Has nothing to do with taking class.
Mm.
Saturday mornings, waking up, on the table would be 2 bowls, 2 spoons, a box of cereal. We'd sit down, we'd watch cartoons, and all of the music came up from the basement.
Mm.
That's what that's the very first memory. You're talking to a guy who believed everybody had a dance studio in their basement.
You told me that, and I'm thinking to myself, really? But then if that's all you know growing up, then that
Yes,
is your norm. That is
I
your
go to people's houses and look for their dance studio.
Where's the record player? I don't get it.
But that's my memory, and I'm going to tell you another story. I told this on one of the podcasts with Stacy. I remember this Tuesday nights. I think it was either Dinah Shore or there's another woman. I can't think of her name. It might come to me in a second. She had a show on TV, and that was the night that my mother taught the adult class. My mother would come up, we'd supposedly go to bed. And as soon as she went down to teach that adult class, we would wake up. Well,
Yep.
you didn't have a TV in your bedroom at the time.
Right.
But we go sit watching the show and wait for my mother. We'd start hearing them say goodbye, and we'd run back into the bed and act like we'd been asleep the whole time. We loved adult class night.
Mm. That's amazing. Now, Rhee, your mom grew her studio. It was a single room in the basement, and you told me
Correct.
that she grew it to 200 students.
She did that in about 3 or 4 years. And yes, those 200 all flowed through the studio in a week.
That's incredible. Now, when did she make that transition into finding like a commercial real estate? How did that happen?
Okay, this is a true story, and I hope it inspires some other people to think about negative things that may come into our lives that turn out to be blessings.
Mm.
My mother was perfectly happy in her basement studio. I don't know that she would have gone more kids or more students, because she was running like 6 days a week in her one-room studio and had maxed it out. She had a couple of teachers who worked for her. What happened was the neighbors started freaking out about the traffic and the parking of those 200 people. And they went to the town selectmen. They tried to get her to close down. My mother got her students together and they held picket signs and they said, Sherry Gold brings honor to Randolph. Randolph dishonors her. It was this unbelievable scene.
Wow.
Some of the neighbors scratched the cars of the people who were parking in the neighborhood. So what happened was she didn't have the money or the maybe know-how, I guess I could say, to get that commercial property at that time. It took her a year and a half, but through that entire year and a half, they'd come in, a policeman came in and said, you've been sent a cease and desist order. And she said, she looked up at the policeman. She's teaching little kids, babies. She goes, you're going to have to drag me out of here, sir. And they left. So she did stuff like this for a year and a half. She finally bought a building in a town called Brockton, which is like 2 towns away from the town of Randolph, where we grew up.
And she bought it? She
bought it.
Bought it. Wow.
She bought it. I believe it was like a $40,000 building, which was enormous commitment at the time. We're talking probably 1971, 72, that time frame.
That's incredible that she was able to do that.
Oh, and what was so interesting was that grew at its peak to like 500-600 students, which she never would have done had she stayed in the basement. So that's the story. I always look and I go, that was a hard time. It was a hard time for my mother's kids. When you're little kids, you think somebody's throwing you out of your house. Like, where are you going to go live? What are you going to go do? It was, I think, even more strenuous on us as kids than it was the adults, because we were insecure about where we were going to live. You know, not only was the studio there, but our house was there, and our neighbors didn't like us and treat us well. It was actually a pretty traumatic time, but I'm going to tell you what was great about it. I saw my mother's passion for what she did, and she fought for it.
That's right.
And that's something that it's like, I don't know if a man could have handled what my mother did at that time. She fought and fought and fought. Now, if those police had come in and said, Rhee, we have a cease and desist order for you, I'd probably get up and go, okay. My mother was like, oh, no, I'm teaching. I'm sorry. Boom.
Such a strong woman, especially for that time.
So, you know, it landed on the news, landed in the newspapers. It was this thing that, you know, everybody knew about, made her school grow. It was the best publicity that she ever had in her whole career, as far as her business goes.
Watching your mom go through that, and like, I'm sure the hundreds of other struggles that she's dealt with during that time, being a female business owner, what was something that you learned from her?
So much. But what I learned from her from that time and that period in our lives was, and I still have it today, you leave no stone unturned. If you want to hang on to this business, you are going to have to fight, be clever, and stand confident.
I love that.
I need you to know, like, I work with so many women, and I believe it was a blessing for me to have the mother that I had, because I always conceived how strong a woman was. I always conceived that a woman could run a huge business. You know, when I was growing up and different friends of mine or whatever would make a comment was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
It's like, all I know are strong, smart, passionate women and willing to stay up all night and get a job done, where all these guys that I know, you know, they go, I'm off at 5 o'clock. That's not I come from a different place.
Yeah.
Woo, I got a little fired up with that one, didn't I?
Yeah. No, but that's amazing. I mean, because I feel like, I mean, as a female entrepreneur in business right now, I remember when, people would come in my front door, men, whether it was um, fire inspector or whomever. Hi, can I talk to the owner? And I would say, hi, I am. No, the owner. Because I was a 25-year-old kid when I first opened up. And I'm like, hi, I'm Laura Giacomelli. I'm the owner. And it took them a second. And this was in 2011, Rhee. We're not talking 40 plus years ago. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't. So I can only imagine the roadblocks that were put in front of her, that she was just like, well, I can't go around it, can't go under it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to figure it out, because this was her passion and that was her goal. And she wasn't going to let anything stand in her way. And that's an amazing legacy to leave, for sure.
I'm going to tell you one more story that
Yeah.
relates to this. That's a truth. When my parents split up, I'm going to say my brother and I were about 11. My mother was dating this guy. They were engaged. But when she went to buy that Brockton building, they wouldn't give a single woman a mortgage.
Oh, Rhee, that made my skin crawl.
If you were a single woman, even she down payment for the $40,000, etc., you had to have a husband's signature.
That's
My mother went to New York and married Irving long before they were planning to get married because she wanted to buy the damn building.
wow.
Okay, so you talk about what women dealt with. It's a remarkable for me to look back at that and say, wow,
Yeah, truly. God, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. That's just and I think that that's amazing that she was part of the original female dance studio owners that helped pave the way to women right now who are able to, if I ever thought of buying a building, they wouldn't ask for my husband's signature. My husband has nothing to do with my business. I mean, I would laugh at them. I'd be like, you don't even know if I have one. Like, he's not on any of the business bank. Like, that's Laura Giacomelli. So to know that there were so many obstacles and, she broke those barriers. She was an entrepreneur. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay. So I want to shift forward.
Wait, I want to say one thing, then
Yeah,
you
go
go
ahead.
to the shift.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I want our listeners. Oh, did I lose it? Don't underestimate you as a leader, businesswoman in your business. What that example is showing young women that dance through your studios.
Yes.
I'm not sure that you're realizing that side of who you are and what you do out there in the world. You are setting an example for young women who want something and have a passion for something and want to direct something. Don't take that lightly.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember it was like 3 years ago, and I had a mom, and I still teach both of her girls are on my senior line. And she said something to me that I will never forget. She said, Laura, they got into a scuffle with, girl drama. And I kind of laid down the law. I'm like, this is the expectations of the studio. This is my expectations of a company dancer. And everyone fell in line. And the mom said to me, You don't know how much I appreciate you. When I really think about it, my children, my teens spend more time with you and at your studio than they do at home.
Mm.
You have such an impact on them. And I'm just so thankful that they have a positive place and role models. And I always remembered that. I always thought to myself, be very careful who you have at your studio, your teachers, your staff, your assistant helpers, like, because they are totally helping shape the young women and men that are coming through my studio doors. And that is something that I never take lightly, and I will never take that for granted. So you're right. It's so important. It's so, so important.
It's a part of who we are and what our education is all about.
100%.
And I say we are, I'm not one of you, but you get my point.
No, but you are, because you grew up in this.
Yes.
You are. This
Okay,
is your
thanks.
world. Yeah, this
Thanks.
is your world. Okay, you've had many chapters in your life, Rhee.
Okay.
And a big chapter was owning a dance competition for
Yes.
years.
Yes. You have a specific question, or you want me to go on a roll?
Well, how many years did you own your competition?
From 24 years. It started at age 17, and it was really not me alone. Let's say when I was 17, 18, 19, we had a dance company called the Sherry Gold Dancers.
Mhm.
And my mother had been running a competition called Terpsichore in Massachusetts for a few years. In 1979, we ran the first competition as a fundraiser to buy costumes for us performing in Las Vegas.
Wow.
The purpose to run the dance competition was to make enough money to buy the costumes for this summer we were going to be in Vegas.
That's incredible.
And so I'm going to say like 3 or 4 years later, maybe more, the company disbanded and I landed with this competition. It was called American Dance Spectrum before it was called American Dance Awards. But while we were American Dance Spectrum, we had a contract dispute with the hotel at Disney World. I'm not going to say the name of it. And they decided they were going to sue me, and this was in 1994-ish, for $3 million because they said I didn't fulfill this contract. So I hired a lawyer. We fought it. In the long run, I won, but I changed my name from American Dance Spectrum to American Dance Awards to prep for this lawsuit that I could lose.
Right, right.
And what I did in the end was I paid for all these dance studio. It was over a room block in the hotel. They said I didn't sell as many rooms as what I had been contracted to do, but these people had groups of 20 rooms they needed, 30 rooms they needed, and the hotel turned them away, said they were sold out.
Oh.
So they went to other hotels. So I flew them in to testify.
Good for you.
And I ended up winning.
Good for you.
But the trauma of it, you never want to go through any of those kind of things in life because they stay with you forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, the dance competition was a great success. I loved what I did for the majority of the time that I did it. I would meet teachers in different cities and watch them grow as teachers in schools. Like they might come in and not be that strong. And 6 years later, you look and you're like, wow, she's so strong. And you'd see kids every year. So it was this kind of, to me, it was a family-ish kind of thing.
Yes.
But after the 24 years, this woman called me on the phone. She was a friend of my mom's and my brother and I. And she said, Rhee, I love you. This was after a competition weekend. Rhee, I love you. And you know I loved your mother, but I can never come back to your dance competition again. And I looked, and we were actually on the phone, so I wasn't looking. And I said, Norma, how were these kids? She said I gave them high bronze medals, and that psychologically devastated them. So then I said, how were these kids? And she said, oh, they were the worst kids that I had there. I go, were they stronger than the ones that we gave a silver medal to? And she said, no, but you shouldn't go below a silver because you will psychologically devastate them. Now, I'm not telling you that was it, but that tipped the scale for me. We had run 50 cities a year for a couple years. I think that helped to tip the scale as well. I turned around in the office and I said, I'm out when we go to New York to the national championships. This is my last year. And everybody thought I was joking. But it was the truth. I needed to move on. It was not my thing anymore. And I sold it to a woman named Gloria Jean Cuming. And that event still runs. I'm going to say, what's 1979? It's well over 40 years old. It's
wow.
43, 44 years. So every time I see it advertised or whatever, I go, isn't that cool? This thing is still happening.
It's still going. Exactly. Yeah, that's amazing. So was that the moment, Rhee, for you that you transitioned out of that competition world and then you came into the world that I know you from, which is like the Dance Life Teacher Center and that idea of bringing teachers together and learning together? Like, how did that seed get planted? And then you were like, this is now the path that I'm going to take. This is what I want to do.
First, I want to hit this comment here because my gimmick, this is what messed me up, really. Whoever wrote this, you're going to know it in a secret. I used to yell. I'd be reading the awards and I'd get to Bridge Over Troubled Water. And I go, it's a gold. Okay? And people screamed and yelled. And I'm going to say about and that was the gimmick. Like everybody was waiting for me to yell, it's a gold. They added an ultimate gold.
Of course.
And it didn't feel the same.
Roll as well. Yeah.
I couldn't go, ultimate gold. So that, if you ask me when the tipping point was when my shtick was messed up, because now there was.
You're like, now I'm out.
So my whole career, you messed it up. I'm known for this.
Exactly. And when gold was a huge achievement, I love that comment. Yes.
It was not about your super titanium ultimate steroid award. You won a gold and not everybody won one.
Yep. And that was okay. And it made you put a fire underneath your dancers' butts to work a little bit harder. And it didn't destroy their confidence. It just made them say, okay, this is where the level's at. This is where you are. Here are your notes. Work on them. You know, it's different world. Different world.
Okay, hit me with your next question. And if anybody here watching has any questions, put them in the comments.
Okay. So you have a lot of things going on now, Rhee. You have the Dance Life Teacher Conference. You have Soul. You have IDEA. You have Gold Alliance. You have public speaking. And then you have all those chapters before this chapter that you're currently in. Give me, if you can, what's something that you're most proud of right now? Looking back, and it can be anything.
My conference is one of the things that I'm the most proud of. It was always a passion of mine. I know everybody thinks the conference is about coming to class and learning new business skills, maybe networking, seeing exhibitors. But if you can get people together for 3 days and it totally changes them from, let's say, questioning whether they love what they do to 3 days later saying, I'm ready to roll, that's it for me. Yeah, I want good faculty. I want to create a vibe where people literally go, oh yeah, that's why I do this. So that's the thing that I think I'm the most proud of. I'm proud of IDEA. I'm proud of the Gold Alliance. I'll also tell you something else, this new Soul Dancer Conference. See, when I got out of the competition world, people believed I'd come back. And a couple times I thought about it, or someone approached me, said, would you like to do this together or whatever? And I kept saying to myself, oh no, I can't go back and do another competition. I have to go back and do something different. Because there's enough people giving out awards and kids spending a whole weekend in an auditorium. But I couldn't think of what it was because people are so attracted to awards. Parents, kids, dance teachers. It's a truth.
And that's just a part of that, our industry. It's heavily saturated in that right now. So it's hard to deviate away from that when that's what everyone sees and you think that's what everyone wants because that's all that's being offered.
But hear this. Here you're going to learn something about Rhee, or what I really think. Do you know how many people come to me and say, if only there was first, second, third again, I'd go there. Or if only there was some event where my kids didn't have to compete, I'd go there. They don't. They don't. They say it, but they don't mean it. I think it would be too much of a shift for their parents, too much of a shift to explain that there aren't going to be any awards. It's really interesting.
But I think also, I mean, I had 2 dancers. We attended we're in Pennsylvania. So we went to Connecticut. I offered it to my company dancers and 2
Talking about Soul? Yes.
Soul, yes, last year. And the experience, Rhee, that they had, both want to dance later on. So I'll start there. Both are competition dancers. We're not a studio that goes to 5, 12. Like we go to 3 regionals. They have the option to go to nationals if they like, another optional just for solo, duo, trios competitions. But that's not all we do. You know, they do nursing home performances. We have a gala where we perform for our parents. They have recitals. We do other things, parades, things like that. To be able to be in an environment with, I'll talk about Leia. Leia is a junior right now. Going there and being able to speak to someone, actually speak to Rhonda Miller, who is the director of the commercial dance program at Pace, where Leia, that is her number 1 pick. Her mom literally said to me, this was priceless. For Leia to be able to speak with her, to ask questions during the question and answer session, to be able to take a master class from her, to be able to ask questions like, when we're submitting videos, what should we be submitting? What catches your eye? And the first thing she says, don't send me contemporary. I know everyone can. And like, I'm thinking about, wow, like Leia has a contemporary.
Yeah, see,
video, but
I remember hearing that and thinking, wow, I would have thought, right? That's exactly what you'd want.
Yeah. So like I said to Leia, when we start choreographing something, it's going to be a jazz, like, and something old school, like a Prince, or like, we're going to make her remember, you know what I'm saying? Like we're going to spark something that, and I don't think she would have known that. I don't think I would have known that. So it helped me as an educator to young children in dance. And it helped me have even more tools in my toolbox that if they want to go to these colleges what the expectation is, what that audition looks like, because what it looked like 20 years ago when I auditioned, it is very different. What the expectation is very different. What they're able to get in these programs is very different. And that is something that I know Leia was just like, this was unbelievable, Miss Laura. Like, this was so incredible. I'm like, I know. So I have 3 who are going to Vegas this year, and coming from the East Coast to fly out, like, we don't do that at Libra. We do local things. Connecticut was a little far for us because it was hours, you know, we're like New Jersey, PA people. So to be able to put this out in the universe and already have 3 girls being like, yeah, we're flying out to Vegas. I'm like, wow. Like, it left that much of an impression on them that they want to do it again. And then they're spreading the word with our dance studio. And that says a lot, Rhee, because we are competition kids, you know, they do compete. And it's just something telling that they also want something else. They do, because when they were there, they loved it.
See, this is the thing. When it comes to soul, I know pretty much that every teacher, every parent, because parents have their own workshops and classes, and every dancer, every teacher will be satisfied. It's about convincing them of the value of hanging out with people from the higher ed sector to learn about what's possible for your child who is passionate about dance. Different people who do different career paths.
Mm-hmm.
And for parents to realize, oh, it's not only becoming a professional dancer that's her option.
Right.
Or in higher ed, you can major in this and still continue to dance, and just the things that are learned. And, you know, there was a session we ran, and, you know, because it was the first time, I was like, okay, let's see how it goes. One session I ran was all 4 people who are assistant teachers. And I said, now they're probably not going to come because there's a contemporary class at the same time. Do you know how many people came in the room and wanted kids who wanted to learn how to be a good assistant teacher? Same thing for a class where it was about the path to becoming a dance teacher. It's like, if we open our kids' minds and we open their parents' minds to something different from this repetition,
right,
there's more of an appreciation for dance.
Right.
There's more of an understanding. Okay, I get why my kid wants to be there 4 days a week.
Correct. The parents get an opportunity to be a part of the culture. And that's it's not just see their kid be a part of it. And I feel like that's what I really liked about your conference. Like, I sat in, I probably shouldn't have, but I did, when you spoke to the parents, and both of my parents who were there sat and listened to you talk. And it talked about how, you know, not to be talking about the dance teacher on the way home in the car and bad mouthing them. What does that do if your child just the way that the things that you said to them? And I just sat there like,
what's so funny is,
and they received it. They're like, we get it. We get.
You
and
have to say it with, yeah. You have to. I go, you know that it isn't good for our kids to hear us talk about their teachers in a negative way, right? And you can see their mouths drop, but they nod yes. I go, and here's another one. You know, we'd never talk about somebody else's child or the way they raise their child in front of our kids, because we're adults. We know we shouldn't do that. They are like this.
But I think it's to hear it from like someone in the industry, it just hits different. I can read it from my handbook until I'm blue in the face as the studio owner.
Okay, that's a good point. You're
right.
Yeah,
but for them to hear it from someone who's in the industry and dealing with children and dealing with these dance teachers and studio owners, it just hits different. It does. It does. And it's an amazing like reminder to them. So I mean, that's something that I took away. I loved being in the back of that room because I literally sat in the back row. I'm like, let me see. And I just kept like scanning. And you're right, they were nodding or they'd go like, oh, like they're like, because everyone has their moments. Everyone has their
Oh,
moments.
yes.
100%. But I feel like
It's
now that
go ahead.
I said now that I have Cole, I just think to myself, when I interact with parents, I think I have a different feel. I'm like, I understand what that mama bear moment is like now because I have them with Cole and I have to keep myself in check with different things that go on with him. And am I questioning myself or, like that parent, it feels different once you are a parent. And I realize that because I've had parents say that to me, when you're a mom, you'll get it. When you're a mom, you'll get it. And I used to take offense to that. But now that I'm a mom, I get it. It does hit different. But I think those moms, they just it was very well received. My mom's left being like, "Yep, and Laura, we understand why you have that handbook. We understand why you push the rules that you do. We get it. Like we get it." And then the mom goes, she goes, "I'm drinking the Kool-Aid," and she walked out.
What is so funny is that was right away, if you remember. And
Yeah,
I
it was
walked
good.
in that room that day. I
Mhm.
said, now either these parents are going to hate me or they're going to laugh and they're going to think this was a great, honest conversation.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I walk into a room when I go to do a discussion like that and get a little concerned by a parent's reaction but I think when it comes to parents and dance, or it could be sports, I'm not sure that a lot of parents are ever educated.
Right. This isn't their lane. Yeah, this isn't their lane. And that makes sense. So I think that us explaining it and not getting frustrated that we have to explain it. That was another thing when I would early on as a studio owner. Like, why don't they know this? And I'm thinking to myself, when I sign Cole up for soccer, I'm not going to know anything because I don't play soccer. I never played soccer. And some of these parents never dance and never were a part of a dance team or never understood why ballet was expected if they wanted to be a part of company. Like you have to explain and break these things down for them so that they are educated and they do understand why we do what we do and how we do it.
And once you're able to do that and break down barriers,
Mhm.
your parents become your best supporters.
Yes,
They're
100%.
your cheerleader.
Mhm.
And not only at a dance competition, but within the community, which helps your business grow.
Yes, 100%. I know we're talking so much about the conference. We got to roll this so people can see what it's all about, Rhee.
Oh, roll it. I'm
Yes.
going to do, okay, everybody, don't go away. I want you to stay. I am going to roll a commercial for the conference and soul.
I'm so excited to attend that this year, Rhee. And thank you so much for allowing me to interview you today. It was so much fun. And it was such a pleasure to get to know you on so many other different like levels and understand you even more and where you came from. So I so appreciate it. Thank you.
This was fun. We'll do it again sometime if you're into it.
Love to.
I'm going to close with these words because reminiscing today inspired them. In this life journey that we take, there are lots and lots of bumps in the road. And the more you achieve, sometimes the bumps are more.
Yeah.
Know as you live longer and you be able to look back in retrospect, there's very few things that happen in this life that don't have a reason or a purpose. It's going to set you up in the right place for something that's going to happen to you in the future. So I'm saying to everybody, we just been through some tough years.
Yeah.
Take the future and say, what is it that I'm learning from this? What is it that I'm going to gain when I make it through this? Our success lies in the more knowledge that we have, the experiences that we've survived, the triumphs that we have in our lives. Look for the good. Because I could do this interview with Laura and tell you stories about the last couple of decades, and you'd say, how'd that guy pull that off? How'd that guy survive? It's a passion for what I love to do. It's like there is nothing else that I choose to do. So therefore, I have to get past the roadblock, to get over the hurdle. I must leave no stone unturned. Now, in saying that, you have to also give yourself the time to sort your own head out and what your own goals are.
Because it's okay for them to be different. That's something that I'm learning right now. That once
Yes.
you hit those initial goals, and if you want them to change or be different or be bigger or be smaller or whatever it is you want them to be, that is okay. That is okay. Because everyone's journey is different.
And find the definition for you of what success means. Not what you see other people do and you make the assumption that that's success. What's going to fulfill you on the inside? And go for that. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Stand tall like my mother did and fight for what you believe in. And as time goes on, you're going to be very proud. So what I'm saying is don't live in that depressed why me stage. Just keep moving because you're going to figure out why that happened eventually. Okay, time to stop talking. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you all for tuning in. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.